But this video is going to be specifically about McLuhan's The Medium is the Message that you read for today. Both this article that's currently on the screen and a short selection from McLuhan's book, The Medium is the Massage. And I'll be talking about the difference between the message and the massage here in just a second. The massage actually was a typo, so the story goes, from the publisher, that when the book came back from the publisher to McLuhan, instead of it saying the medium is the message, it said the medium is the massage. And instead of being angry, McLuhan was tickled pink, because McLuhan was one of the first celebrity professors in the United States, where he was an English professor, but he was also a mass cultural celebrity. And partly because he was the first scholar to take media studies seriously. And people were really fascinated by this because in the time when he was writing, which was like the 50s and the 60s, television, it was new in most people's houses, and electricity had a big influence. Advertising was a big influence. The world was really changing due to electricity and television and film. And he really made his name looking at those technologies seriously and thinking about them seriously, and helped to change the way that people thought about them. Because what we typically do when we look at advertising or television or electricity is that we are really excited because it makes our lives easier, but we don't really think about that. We think about the content that we gain access to. Such and such TV show is our favorite, or that was really interesting news that we got at 6 p.m. But we don't think about how the technology itself changes the scale, pace, or pattern of our lives. And I'm going to keep repeating that because that's what is the message of the medium, according to McLuhan. The change that it has on the scale, pace, or pattern of our lives. So if you look down from your worksheet, what I asked you to do for yesterday, and when you turned in your worksheet, first was to paraphrase the second sentence of paragraph 1, which is this. Which, if you paraphrase this, basically what I was looking for you to say is that technology changes the scale of our lives, which affects us personally and socially. So basically, again, what McLuhan is looking at is not so much what is the content of the technology, but the effects that it has on human lives, on the scale of our lives, on how much we're able to do. That's what I'm referring to as the scale. And he's looking at this, how it affects us in our personal lives and our social lives. So he's not looking at technology as something aside from us, but something that becomes integrated into our daily lives. Okay. Number 2, paraphrase what Federman says in the first 2 sentences of paragraph 3. So here, I'm going to highlight these again. There. Basically what he's saying here is that we fail to see the non-obvious, which is that our lives are changing over time. So in other words, because of technology, our lives are actually changing. That we are not like our ancestors. Our ancestors' lives are not like our ancestors. And we can tie that back in with the answer to question number 1. Our lives are not like our ancestors personally or socially. So what does that mean? Again, let's go on to question number 3, the first sentence of paragraph 6. So this is to reiterate what I said earlier, and I want you to hang on to, is that technology's message are the effects that technology has on the scale, pace, or pattern of our lives. This is more important than the actual content. This is a paradox. So this is something that is strange, but actually true. That's what a paradox is that more important than the content of each technology is the effects it has on the scale, pace, or pattern of our lives. That is the message of technology. And then number 4, paraphrase the first sentence in paragraph 9. Here we go. Is inventions, which are anything that is man-made, anything that is a synthetic creation, can be judged by their message, which is the way that they change the scale, pace, or pattern of our lives. So again, he's just restating this over and over again in different ways, that technology is anything that is synthetic or man-made, and that the real importance of that technology is the way in which it changes the scale, pace, or pattern of our lives. So I'm going to stop here for just a second. That's pretty much the end of the worksheet, except that I asked you to locate an example and explain below how it fits in with what you figured out was McLuhan's intent about what is the meaning of the message. And I'm going to do that for you starting right now. First, I want to give you a little example of what is a technology according to McLuhan. He uses two words interchangeably, technology and extension. And basically what he means by that is that a technology is anything that is not organically created by our bodies. So if we look down at our bodies, like our skin is not technology, our fingernails and toenails are not technology, our hair is not technology, but if you're wearing fingernail polish or nail polish, that is technology. If you're wearing shoes, that is technology. If you're wearing clothes, technology. If you have gel in your hair or hairspray in your hair, that is technology. If you're wearing makeup, technology. If you're wearing glasses, technology. If you have any synthetic parts in you, any screws or insulin pumps or a pacemaker, anything like that, that is technology. So anything that's not organically created by our body is technology. Looking around my office right now, my printer is technology. The art that's hanging on my walls is technology. The chair that I'm sitting in is technology. My desk, I have greeting cards. I have pencils. I have paper clips. I have paper. These are all technology. Taking it more abstractly, the blinds on my windows, the paint on my walls, the sheetrock that's underneath the paint, the plaster, just like everything is technology if it did not organically come forth from our bodies or from the soil. So everything is technology. It's not just computers, laptops, the internet, things like that. Everything is technology. And we're going to be really stressing that. So first of all, I'd like to give this example. This example will come back up in McLuhan later on. It did not come up in the first 40 pages, but I think clothing as technology is a really good example of how clothing changes the scale, pace, and or pattern of our lives. So imagine you woke up this morning and you had no clothing in your apartment. You had no clothing. You didn't even have curtains. You didn't have any, fabric on your couch that you could rip off. You had no bath mats. You had nothing. You had no cloth. You had no clothing. You had nothing that you could cover yourself in your apartment. How would that change the scale, pace, or pattern of your life? Well, first of all, it would change the scale of your life immensely because with clothing, you can pretty much move around wherever you want to in the world. Without clothing, you're pretty much stuck in your apartment. You cannot leave your apartment. So therefore, you go from being an independent person who can move about in the world basically wherever you want, unless, you want to go someplace where there's a clothing, specific dress code, to somebody who cannot leave your house. Now, that will change the scale. You go from being a global person to a trapped, isolated individual. It will also change the pattern of your life. Probably you had plans today before you woke up naked and unable to leave your apartment. You probably had a job that you had to go to, so you have to get prepared to go to that job. Now you don't have to go to the job. You would probably be busy because you're doing homework to go to your class, besides this online class. If you had any classes besides online classes, you would have to drop out of all of them and suddenly sign up for all online classes. So it would change the pattern of your life. You would be unable to go get yourself food, so you'd have to arrange for food to come to you. You would be a lot less busy, frankly, without clothes. The pattern of your life would change a lot. And instead of moving around the world, you would be moving only around your apartment. And then thirdly and lastly, the pace of your life. You would probably go from somebody who is pretty darn hurried, rushing from place to place, going to your university classes, going to your job, going to meet up with your friends, going to meet up with your family, going down to the beach for a little bit to hang out, to somebody who is pretty bored and doesn't have much to do, and feels rather sluggish and slow and lonely and not in a rush. Which, being not in a rush, you probably many days were like, I wish I wasn't rushing around so much. But if actually all of that was taken away from you, if you didn't have clothing, you'd probably be really quite sad. So let's turn to the actual textbook to give you an example from the textbook of how McLuhan sees this playing out. Turn first to page 14, where we have the words at the top of the page, your family. And underneath it says, the family circle has widened. The whirlpool of information fathered by electronic media, movies, telestar flight, far surpasses any possible influence mom and dad can now bring to bear. Character no longer is shaped by only two earnest, fumbling experts. Now all the world is a sage. Now, again, what we're thinking here is the technology. What technology is he talking about? He's specifically talking about electronic media, which at this time and point was movies, Telstar, and flight. Which, interesting that he's putting flight under the umbrella of electric media, but it makes sense because without electricity, airplanes don't really work that as well as they do, in our day and age. So basically what it's saying is that because of electricity, the scale of our lives have changed because the people who are able to weigh in on how our children are raised and influence the way our children are raised is not just their parents and is not just the neighbors, it's not just the local community, but is people that we don't physically have contact with, people in the movies. Telstar is satellite communications. And so, of course, satellite communications enable us to be connected with people from around the world globally. This is something that we take for granted these days. We have to remember that for people in McLuhan's time period, it was shocking that suddenly they had information about and images of real-time images of people living on the other side of the world. We need to tap back into a sort of wonder that we're able to do that when something happens on the other side of the world, that we not only know about it immediately, but that we have images of it, we have sound of it. We're able to see it on a very visceral level. Also, if you look at page 16, your neighborhood, it says electric circuitry has overthrown the regime of time and space, pours upon us instantly and continuously, the concerns of all other men. It has reconstituted dialogue on a global scale. Its message is total change, ending psychic, social, economic, and political parochialism. So basically he's saying is that we're part of a global village. This is a term that's associated with McLuhan over and over again. He coined it, and basically it's saying that time and space are no longer barriers to talking with somebody. Think about that. We talk about this all the time with the internet, that you can have conversations with people on the other side of the world. They can be instantaneously, even if you're far away from somebody, and that you can have these conversations anytime you want. You can have entertainment anytime you want, around the clock. And you don't need to necessarily be near somebody or something in order to enjoy it. You can be quite far away. So electric circuitry has collapsed these things that used to hold us separate from one another. Okay, now I'm almost at the end of this video, but I'm going to be posting another video later on today about how to and where you'll be posting your web blog for this week. So I hope this video is helpful. If you have any questions, don't forget to post them to the forum on where it says post your questions here, right underneath the syllabus on our Moodle website.